That part, you mentioned earlier that you can't plan this year based on weather in your area last year, but obviously in some cases, in some parts of the weather scenario, you can.
Yeah. Well, again, you know, it depends on the particular factor and how strong it is. Again, one of the reasons why we're reluctant to go out too far this year is because there's so much variability in what's happening, particularly in the North Atlantic. That was a significant change from what we saw last year, and you'd be amazed at how much of a factor that has on weather that we have in this part of the country.
I'm going to give the telephone number, and we can go back and you can get that slide ready that shows that particular map that Jed's talking about. We can get that back up again. Here's our telephone number is 877-731-6733. Again, lines are open just for about 10 more minutes for you to join us. We'd love to hear from you with a question or a comment that can help others who are watching tonight as well. Okay, we can go back to the slide that showed the phenomenon that you're talking about in the North Atlantic, one of your last slides there. If we can go back to that, and while they're getting that ready, there we go. Again, show us again with the different
in the upper right-hand corner where you see that red arrow with the MDO, if you notice that that blue area, if we were comparing this with January of 2011, that would be all yellow. And that, again, there are some different theories on what's causing that. Some are saying it's the volcanic activity. Others are saying it's just a typical phenomenon brought about by this multi-decadal oscillation factor. But the bottom line is that it has had a huge impact on what's happening across the northern tier, and again, that snowfall that we were seeing in Eastern Europe right now that's buried Europe.
And severe cold in Europe as well that we've been following in our market reports. The severe cold weather in Ukraine and Russia, Eastern Europe overall, certainly affecting the crop there. We haven't talked about, and we're still looking for some callers to join us here before we have to wrap things up. But we haven't talked about South America, and if you have any thoughts there, from they're wrapping up their growing season. They may get some rain. You made an interesting point as we talked about this during our discussions that they get some rain now, but it's probably a little bit too much or too late for that to help.
Well, La Nina doesn't just affect North America, it affects South America as well. And what we saw this year was the very, very cool waters off of the coast of South America, around Argentina, Chile, Peru. And as a result, we are all well aware of the fact that they had a very, very devastating drought that affected corn and soybeans, but corn in particular in Argentina, which has also had an impact here. It's not just the price of corn, but a lot of seed corn is produced in South America. Absolutely. So that's a consideration, you know, for a lot of producers as well.
And if we might also take a look, people that are just joining us maybe did not see, I want to go back to the March your temperature and precipitation maps that will give us, this is data that you do stand on and say this is what we see right now for March and the temperature outlook. Then as I saw that earlier, I kind of said, well, if you look at the difference between the blue area, we're below, and south where it's above normal temperatures, Interstate 80 is a pretty close dividing line right there.
It is. And again, there are conditions that are driving this year that are very different than the ones that we saw last year. Again, I would point out that the temperatures, we got the question from Nebraska a little while ago. You're going to be seeing some drier conditions and warmer conditions this year as that continues to spread. In fact, if you were to look at the Palmer Drought Index maps, you would see that a good portion of the country is now considered to be in drought.
And that map we just saw there again, that's the precipitation for the month of March. There we go, one more time. Again, viewers can take a good look at that, and we see that area in Oklahoma and Colorado, western Kansas, and extreme western Nebraska as well, you're saying below normal here as we get into the third month of the year.
That is correct. And that area of the Pacific Northwest that's showing above, that is definitely impacted by those volcanoes that have put all that particulate matter into the atmosphere.
That's very interesting. Hadn't thought about that. All right, let's go back to our telephone calls and telephone lines. Jared from Louisiana, you're up next. Welcome.
How y'all doing?
Just fine. Thanks for the call.
I was wondering if you can get AGROTAIN in Louisiana, and is it good for hay fields and ryegrass?
Yes, sir. It is accessible all in Louisiana. I don't know exactly where you're located at there, but we have a regional manager that does live in Louisiana. He covers all of Louisiana. I would recommend you go to our website that we talked about earlier, agrotain.com, and you can easily find him and give him a call. He'd be more than glad to help you find your local dealer at supplies. And like we were talking about earlier with pasture crops, I highly recommend you looking into a stabilizer for your nitrogen on your pasture, since you're unable to incorporate it, and if you don't have irrigation on your pastures, you're going to have to wait on Mother Nature to help get that into the ground for you. It would be very beneficial to look at. A national average for us on forage production is about 790 pounds an acre by using stabilized nitrogen on your pastures.